Hello, friends. I'm Steve Russell, Sales Manager for Evergreen Digital Showroom in Lebanon, Missouri. In our last video, we began a series about automobile manufacturers that at one time were major players in the industry, but ceased production decades ago. This video will highlight Studebaker, a company involved in the transportation industry before the founding of the United States. Peter Studebaker and members of his family arrived at the port of Philadelphia in 1736 from Holland. A wagon maker by trade, he built a home and a wagon factory in territory that is now part of the state of Maryland. While he lived less than 20 years after his immigration, Studebaker is credited with creating the designs for the legendary Conestoga and Prairie Schooner wagons. Descendants of the Studebaker family branched out and continued in the wagon making and blacksmithing trades. By the 1850s, the family was scattered from what is now Maryland west to California, where a family member was making wheelbarrows for prospectors during the gold rush. Members of the family in South Bend, Indiana, opened a factory to make parts for wagons in 1852 that soon evolved into making completed wagons. It was successful thanks to westward expansion, railroad development, and military sales. By the late 1800s, the horseless carriage was entering the marketplace, and the company began research into those in 1895. Studebaker's focus was still primarily on wagons. The beautifully restored wagons seen today being pulled by the legendary Budweiser Clydesdales were built by Studebaker around 1900. The company began manufacturing an electric automobile in 1902 and continued producing them through 1911. Hedging its bets, Studebaker entered body manufacturing and distribution agreements with manufacturers Garford of Elyria, Ohio, and Everett Metzger Flanders, also known as EMF, of Detroit, that used gasoline engines. The tumultuous collaboration with Garford ended in 1910, and Garford was acquired in 1913 by John North Willys. The relationship between Studebaker and financially troubled EMF was so problematic that Studebaker ended up buying the company in 1910 and dispatched company mechanics to the homes of EMF buyers to fix those vehicles. In addition to a factory in Detroit, the EMF acquisition also gave Studebaker a factory in Canada that produced cars for the company until 1936. The company refinanced operations in 1911 and incorporated under the laws of New Jersey as Studebaker Corporation. World War I saw Studebaker not only selling products to the U.S. military, but also to the armies of Great Britain, France, and Russia, as horse-drawn wagons were still very much in use. In 1919, new President Albert Erskine, a former company accountant, correctly saw that horse-drawn wagons were a liability going forward and converted that assembly line to produce trucks. In the 1920s, under Erskine's leadership, the company closed down the factory in Detroit and moved all U.S. production to South Bend, but the company faced several challenges. A new low-priced car named the Erskine was introduced and was a financial disaster. In another of Erskine's questionable decisions, Studebaker acquired struggling luxury brand Pierce Arrow in 1928, although virtually all management and production functions for that company remained at their factory in Buffalo, New York. The Great Depression, brought on by the collapse of the U.S. stock market in October 1929, created massive problems for Studebaker. Overextended by the cash needs of Pierce Arrow and poor sales of the Erskine, the financial position of Studebaker deteriorated quickly. In March 1933, the company was forced into receivership and Erskine was fired. A group of Buffalo area banks and businessmen quickly raised enough capital to take back local control of Pierce Arrow. A few months after his ouster from Studebaker, Erskine committed suicide. Studebaker exited receivership at the end of 1933. For the remainder of the decade, Studebakers were considered reliable vehicles aimed at America's working class. With the advent of World War II, military conflict once again proved profitable for the company as it built vehicles for the U.S. military. With the war ending in 1945, Studebaker was one of the few U.S. automakers to introduce a brand new car design claiming to be the best by far with a post-war car. The company opened a new plant in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada in 1948 that continued to make cars until the brand's demise in 1966. The post-war management team left the company in 1949, and the new executive's cautious conservative style failed to meet the industry challenges. An ongoing price war between Ford and General Motors cut the price of new automobiles and made it difficult for independent automakers like Studebaker to compete. An unsuccessful effort was made in 1954 to merge Studebaker with fellow independents Packard, Nash, and Hudson. In the end, Packard purchased cash-strapped Studebaker while Nash and Hudson merged to form General Motors. The new Packard-Studebaker company was doomed from the start. Studebaker's critical financial condition quickly drained company reserves. Production at Packard's assembly plant in Detroit closed in 1956, and the 1957 and 1958 Packards were basically rebadged Studebaker models. A bright spot came in 1959 when Studebaker introduced the compact Lark, putting the company on the profit side of the ledger. Those profitable times were brief, as the Big Three all introduced compact competitors for the 1960 model year, and sales of the Lark tanked. A prolonged labor strike in January 1962 dealt Studebaker a crippling blow, and persistent public speculation that the company would be exiting the automobile business became a self-fulfilling prophecy. The South Bend plant closed in December of 1964. All 1965 and 1966 Studebakers were built in Canada, with some of the last cars built having engines purchased from General Motors. There's a collector market for Studebakers today, particularly the early 1950s bullet nose models and the late 1950s and early 1960s Hawk models. There's also interest in the Avanti models of the 1960s, and a couple of attempts to revive that name over the years have not panned out. We have one of the 1988 revival cars in our portfolio. The Studebaker Drivers Club continues to promote the marque, holding events around the country. The Antique Studebaker Club, founded in 1971, focuses on owners of cars through the 1946 model year and trucks through the 1948 model year. The National Studebaker Museum is in the company's hometown of South Bend, Indiana. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. If you're in the market for a classic vehicle, check out our website at www.evergreendigitalshowroom.com to see a sampling of the vehicles we have for sale. Feel free to give me a call at 417-532-8000 if you have a specific vehicle you're looking for, and I'll be happy to speak with you. From the folks at Evergreen Digital Showroom, have a great day.